Well, good morning everyone. You join us in Dover, waiting for a ferry with our gorgeous Mk3 Cortina, because today we are on the Classic Ford Tour 2022 and we're going to Europe, to Belgium specifically, for 3 days of classic car adventures. And as you can see, we've been joined by a selection of fantastic classic Fords. We've got an old Fiesta there, we've got an old Capri here, there's Escorts up there, there's a modern Focus RS, all kinds of incredible old Fords. And over the next few days, we're going to show you just how much fun you can have with them. So let's get on the ferry and get to Europe. But first, our friends at Lancaster Insurance are running monthly giveaways. You can win all sorts, from experience days to tools, restaurant vouchers and tech. So check the video description for full details and to enter. After a pleasingly smooth ferry crossing, we burst into the sunshine of France and started making our way to the hotel in the coolest convoy I'd ever been a part of. Off the ferry, we've been deposited in France. We're following that beautiful Fiesta and we've got a lovely Mk2 Escort in front of that. And first thing we've got to do today is get to Belgium. We're going to Bruges, where our hotel is, and we've done a couple of miles, or kilometres I suppose, in France so far. The Cortina is feeling great. This car is so nice. So let's enjoy this beautiful French and then hopefully Belgian weather, and the adventure begins. With such gorgeous weather, a few of us decided to head for the beach and ended up in a town called Newport. No, not that one. Or that one. Or that one. This one's spelt differently, and it's got a gold statue of a man riding a turtle. Don't get that in Milton Keynes, do ya? After lunch, we got back on the road and headed for our hotel. I'm not quite sure what it was, but something told me we were in the right place. We checked in and sat back to admire what might be the most picturesque hotel car park I've ever seen. So then, day two. We made it to Bruges pretty much unscathed yesterday. I've just checked the oil and the coolant, and the Cortina has used none of either of them, which frankly, travelling with a 45-year-old car is certainly not a given. Just ask the Bentley. Really pleased with that. The plan for day two was some sightseeing and exploration of the nearby Netherlands. Most of us had different plans for the day, so I fired up the Cortina and in convoy with a lovely Mk2 Escort, we headed north. The first Netherlands stop was Sluis, a hidden gem of a town with something of a feel of Canterbury about it. Pretty little towns like this make me realise how much I've missed travel over the last 2 years. So after getting a taste of the local culture, we pushed further north. So you join us now in the pretty town of Middelburg in the Netherlands, and it is very scenic, but I think far more scenic for a lot of you will be this, a Mercedes G-Wagen, but as you might be able to tell by the Steyr-Putsch badge on the front, no ordinary G-Wagen, because if you look in the back, it's been made into a sort of mini camper in there. Look, it's got a bench with sort of a fold-out bed thing and what looks like a fridge in there, but it's still painted original military green. It's even got like a little fuel can on the back, which may well have camping water in it. And you know what? I think that is properly cool and nicely complemented by our beautiful Cortina. Love it. Lada. You have to get a shot of a first-gen Renault Twingo whenever you're in Europe. It's the law. A nice bench made out of an old Indian motorcycle. Love it. How cute is that? After soaking up some automotive culture, we decided to head into the countryside. As the views got more Dutch and the Cortina continued to effortlessly cover the miles, I couldn't help but reflect on the old girl. I've been thinking a little bit about how far this car's come. And for once, I don't mean with us. I don't mean all the rust repair and the paint and the mechanical jobs it's had done. I'm talking about geographically. It was built in South Africa. It lived much of its life in Cape Town before we got it. Then it was shipped up to Edinburgh in Scotland. Then we road tripped it down to the south, then up to Silverstone, and now it's barreling on an auto route in Europe. The truth of the matter is that prior to 2021, we have no idea of its history. We don't know if it's the original engine, we don't know how much mechanical work's been carried out on it, and really we didn't know what we were getting into with it. And true, we've had to do more rust repair than we initially thought, but seeing that work pay off in a car that looks this gorgeous, drives so well and brings smiles to people's faces wherever it goes, well, it makes it all worthwhile. And it still does the same charming thing that the Cortina's always done, as just being a bit of home everywhere. We've done nearly 300 miles on this trip so far, and all of us have been comfortable. We drove all the way to the hotel in Belgium. No one had a headache, no one was tired. It's been surprisingly economical, as it turns out, and had not one mechanical flaw. You really don't have to be scared of using old cars. The truth is, the worst thing you can do is garage them and baby them and only take them out on the weekends. I've fallen in love with this Cortina since we got it, and in truth, there is no better car in my eyes for doing this trip with. Love it. As the sun set, we headed back to the hotel. After pulling over to fix a troublesome bonnet latch not once, not twice, but 3 times, we eventually made it back to Bruges and had another taste of local culture. The next morning was another gloriously sunny start, with a sense of excitement in the air. The Ford Taunus M Club of Belgium were having their first meet-up in 10 years, and our classic Ford tour had been invited to join them. The meeting location of Nazareth seemed appropriate, because what we found was classic Ford heaven. So we've had quite the welcome committee here to the Ford Taunus M Club meet in Belgium, and where better to start than with these 3 versions of the Taunus itself, which prior to what we would call the Mk3 Cortina was Europe's version of the Cortina. The Mk3 was the first version where they became basically the same car with just a different badge on it. And it must be said, for as much as these aren't quite as familiar as our iconic Mark 1 and Mark 2 Cortina, there is something about them, and in their own way, these are all gorgeous cars. Something of kind of American, even Aussie Fords about them. I like them, but they're not quite as familiar as this. On your left, our South African import Mk3 Cortina, and on your right, what looks like a Mk3 Cortina, but isn't. This is what they got the Mk3 as in Europe, the Taunus, and in fact the full model name for this model that we recognise as the Mk3 is the TC Cortina, Taunus Cortina. This particular Taunus was brought here by a lovely Belgian couple who were insistent on parking next to our car. This particular car was brought in from the Netherlands and it's done just 50,000 kilometres. It's a little bit higher spec than our measly 1.6L and it features much the same 1.6 crossflow as our car's got. It might not have quite the connection with me that this one does, but I'm a big fan. Capris are a firm favourite wherever you go in the Ford world, and we've got some beauties of this meet. Gorgeous 280 Brooklands, lovely Mark 1 here, and that one with some sort of massive wide-body kit reminiscent of the Tickford Capri that Jeff drove last year. Ball bay wheels, that for me is the pick of the bunch. It's the least standard, but it's just cool, much like Capris in general, wherever you go in the world. One thing that never fails to amaze me about the Ford scene is the diversity. I mean, look at this, 3-door Sierra Cosworth, 49 F1 flathead pickup truck, and a beautiful little Mark II Escort on RS4 spokes. I mean, any one of these would be a dream to drive on a day like today, and it just goes to show the Ford scene is a whole lot more than just Mark I Escorts and Capris. Whether you're at a show in Belgium or our very own Ford Fair and Classic Ford show, the Blue Oval scene, there's an awful lot to it, and it must be said, even as an outsider, I'm getting pulled into it.
And in such a warm, welcoming community as this one, you can see why. As we tore the Cortina away from its adoring public and headed back to Calais, I thought a bit about the last few days. Most modern car drivers wouldn't take a 70s Cortina to the shops, but this old girl had proven that classics don't have to be tucked away and only seen at weekend shows. Over 600 miles through 4 countries, barrelling along motorways, exploring pretty little towns and villages, and meeting new friends at one of the best car meets I've ever been to. The Cortina had been faultless and brought smiles wherever it went. This trip in a modern car would have been a drive, but in a car like this, it was an adventure that I won't soon forget. After everything that's gone on in the last couple of years, there's more reason than ever to get out and use your classics. See some sights, make some memories, and enjoy some drives. That's what classics are all about. This video is proudly sponsored by Lancaster Insurance. Give them a call on 01480 400 889 for an insurance quote on your classic car. And don't forget to click the link in the video description to enter their latest competition.